You have to be optimistic. I wouldn't be self-employed in this small business, having given up a good, secure job if I wasn't optimistic. Hello, my name is Siobhan Ghairbhith, and we're here on my farm in Ina, west of Ennis, just south of the Burren in County Clare. And as you can see all around me, you can see some of my nanny goats. So over 20 years ago, I did the sensible thing of giving up my permanent and principal teaching job to go goat farming and cheese making here in the west of Ireland. So it's a 60-acre farm, and I have over 300 goats here. And I took over the business actually from my neighbours, Meg and Derek, who'd been making the goat's cheese since the early 90s. So I inherited a small number of goats from them, and the magic St. Tola recipe that had such a good name. The problem always with St. Tola was there was never enough of it, because it was very much dependent on the milk produced on the farm. That has been the case for the last number of years. Obviously at the start of this year, well, March this year, it wasn't the case. We had more milk than demand, which was unusual. But we're here in West Clare with my team in Ina. My community of West Clare, of Ina, part of the Burren ecotourism that I'm involved in as well, is very much at the heart of what I do, of what my businesses does. I'm a person who wants to be able to employ people here in West Clare because jobs are few and far between. I want to be able to work with a team who are able to have a good standard of living. What COVID has shown us this year, the importance of work-life balance, and where I do want to grow my business to a certain extent, but not to the detriment of my team or myself's own personal, life balance. We all have young families that we want to be able to spend time with. But I want to grow the business, but the way I would see myself growing the business is diversifying into different areas, into like tourism, getting tours here on the farm, collaborating with my fellow members of the network. Yes, I would like people to taste the cheese all over the world, or St. Tola, but I'm very much passionate about sustainable production, sustainable living, sustainable farming. And countries produce great food in their own countries. I think it's about looking at the best we can do, because climate change is such a serious issue in the future and in the short-term future at this stage. So our model is very much about sustainable farming, sustainable production, so that not only my children will be here, but my great-grandchildren will be here, and future generations here in this beautiful community where I live in Ina in County Clare. I've been a member of SME for the last couple of years because I think it's very important. I think networking is very important, and so much so in times of crisis, and this definitely was a year of crisis, because I think if we can work together and support one another, which was the biggest thing this year really, was about just the support and to motivate one another to keep on going along, and to get a stronger voice as small individuals, small companies, to up to the government and to the cabinet, so the right decisions were made. So ISME I found very supportive, especially this year, in giving a voice to a small, very small company like here, St. Tola. So there are 8 of us full-time employed here on the farm, between the farm and cheese making. I suppose that's one of the differences with St. Tola. We actually have our own farm. A lot of Irish cheesemakers now are just buying in milk and are just in production, but we're in production of our own milk and our cheese. So I have 7 others working with me. Thankfully, I was very lucky. They're full-time. I was able to keep them on all during this year. Usually we would have taken on part-time staff during the busy season of the spring and summer, but we didn't do that this year because of, it wasn't necessary, and also because of protection of my team. They've all been with me, the majority have been with me more than 10 years, so they're a family more than my employees. We've a herd of 300 goats, so 220 of them would be the nannies that you're seeing around me here, a mixture of the lovely Saanen goats, the white ones in the British Alpine and the Toggenburg. We milk all year round, but are much less production in the winter time. That's why goat's milk and goat's milk cheese are very scarce, especially in the winter time. So we milk all year round, morning and evening. We're here in the goat shed, and right attached to it is the milking parlour where the goats are milked every day. And just across the yard then, only 6 feet, is where we make the cheese in the cheese house. We make a variety of cheeses, a variety of 7 different types of cheeses. The majority of them are soft cheese. We hadn't made our hard cheese for a good number of years, but out of necessity we went back to making it early in the spring. The reason for that is obviously with hard cheese it matures and improves with age. You could hold our hard cheese up to 2 years, it becomes like a lovely parmesan. But mainly we're in the soft cheese market, so we would sell from our very soft cream cheese, which was only 3 days old, to our more mature soft cheese, which would be up to 6 weeks, which would be for clients upmarket, you know, high-end restaurants. So a variety of 7 cheeses, mainly soft cheeses. 90% of our market is actually on the island of Ireland, and then 10% would be abroad, 8% of that being within Britain, which we actually grew this year, miraculously somehow, and then a small bit into mainland Europe, and the States was where our hard cheese was going. We'd hope to get back there next year. But our main market within Ireland, we're 50-50 between food service and with retail, multiple retail and independent retail and markets. I'm a native, yeah, I'm third generation here on the farm. My grandfather would have come from East Clare, and he was the man who put the farm together here. He was a local primary school teacher just in the school up the road with my granny. Then my dad, Flann Garvey, took over the farm and became the local principal in the school and moved down to Ina School. And I was born and bred here. I'm one of 6 children. And the reason why I came to this was, I suppose, we all went to third level college. We went off in various professional careers. And I thought it was a shame that one of the 6 of us wasn't doing something with the farm. Mum and Dad had always leased the farm out themselves. We'd always kept a couple of donkeys and a few cows, but nothing, we weren't farming really. So I was looking for something original to do, and that's how I came about producing St. Tola. It's very much part of the community. All my employees, bar one, live within a 4-mile radius of the actual farm. We're very much involved. As I said, we were born and bred and educated here. We've been involved in going, organising school tours, coming to the farm within the local area and the county, but outside the county as well, but in the local schools coming. We have good relationships with the secondary schools for children going on TY, you know, a transition year, internships, they come here. We also sponsor the local, the Ina Kilnamona Camogie Club. We've been involved in the club, the fishing club, the local Ina Fishing Club. We're obviously great supporters of all things local, as are the locals to us too. And we buy and source as much local as we can, like we use the local printing office in Ennistimon, and we get great support from the local shops and restaurants in the area. COVID, when it came here, it was the biggest challenge I have faced in business in the 21 years I had in business. When I was first kind of hearing about it and not taking that much notice, I was saying to my partner, John, I said, we survived the last recession and we came out of it. We'll come out of this as well. But when COVID came, it was a totally different game altogether, much more threatening. It affected every aspect of the business. When it first, the 9th of March, I suppose, when reality started to hit slowly but surely, is when I started getting the first calls or emails cancelling orders. And for us goat farmers, it would have been it was at the start of the busy season, because it's, you know, Paddy's Day would have been start of the tourist season that we're very dependent on. So I had full cheese house of soft cheese and orders being cancelled. So I mean, first of all, by the end of March, I had lost 75% of my customers of my orders. Distribution was, I suppose distribution was still there, but the demand wasn't there was the problem. I suppose the biggest toll really has been personally on me and on my team, because there was the anxiety and stress in those first, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks. One, there was the anxiety of actually getting COVID, or somebody belonging to us or part of the team getting COVID and somebody getting seriously sick, but also there was the financial worry and the lack of security. But as I said, I was fortunate in my team have been with me for over a decade, and we all pulled together, and we didn't, you know, just sit back and say, throw our hands up in the air. We were very proactive in what we did about it, and I'm very grateful to the team that we did work so hard and that we got the support of our customers, our smaller customers starting off. the multiples were very good. There was one who maybe was trying at the time. I suppose they were concerned that people at the time of the first lockdown, people were buying the basics of toilet paper and toothbrush, and I suppose goat's cheese wasn't a basic. But in time, you know, when the water settled after about a month, we got back in. So retail remains. We were lucky we were in retail. If we had just been food service based, we would have been finished at this stage. I got good support then from Glenisk, were very supportive, who are big processors of milk. They actually bought milk off me for a good number of months, which meant I didn't have to either dump milk, like I know some farmers had to, or I didn't have to dry off my goats, which would have been totally financially not worth it, because I still have to feed my lovely animals, even though they wouldn't have been producing. They give back to me in milk what I give to them in feed. We were wondering how were we going to be able to pay our staff, or my staff were key in being able to hold on to them, but even just the basic of making payments. Now I suppose I have a very good person in who looks after finances, so we'd have been okay for the first month, but after that it was kind of, you were looking into an empty black hole really. So, but I mean, to be fair to the government, they came on the support very quickly, which allowed us to, you know, to breathe a bit deeper. The government has played a key role in keeping small businesses like ours stay going and financially viable. And I think there are a number of steps now the government, it's important that they do take going forward. And I suppose the most important thing is, I think they very much need to support businesses that have survived COVID and that, you know, continue to stay working through it, or came, you know, when lockdown was over, they came back into business. I think it's very important that we get as many people employed back in Ireland again as possible. There are a lot of government supports now for people who are unemployed, but there is a bit of an imbalance, I think, from an employer's point of view. I say it can be difficult to get people to come back to work because of some supports that have been there to date. And I think anybody who is eligible to work, they have to be incentivised to come back to work. And the best way to do that is through the businesses who have shown that they're ready to work, ready to roll up their sleeves, that are, you know, that are viable, that have worked through COVID or worked where they could work during COVID. So I think a lot has to be done with regards to giving state support to the businesses. There have been a lot of good state support by government. I think the biggest risk is going to be with getting employees or getting people back on one's team. The future, I've always looked at it positively, but I've also looked at it very realistically. I would say my partner John is a total optimist. Glass is always overflowing in his book, whereas I would say our glass is always 3/4 full. You have to be optimistic. I wouldn't be self-employed in this small business, having given up a good secure job, if I wasn't optimistic. And I suppose I have good energy. I'm very lucky in the people I have around me. I have great support. Just the business model I have a great team, I have great relationships. I said at the beginning about networking is so important. I've built up relationships with my customers and my suppliers, and we're all very positive and working towards the future. Of course, it's bringing a lot of new elements to it. This whole Brexit, what's going to happen with Brexit, is something we really didn't need on top of coming out of COVID, but you know, we will deal with it. I think just small business people are very resilient, and the fact that we have stayed going, that we're still there today, we're ready to fight the good fight as we have done for the last 21 years.